So I'm going to start by sauteing a little bit of onion and celery, just about a cup of each. And I'm going to dice up the celery just a little bit, give it a nice fine dice. It's a casserole, not a soup, so I don't want big chunks of vegetables in this one. And also it's going to be very kid-friendly. And yeah, my kids are both still pretty picky eaters. They're getting so much better, but I can for sure sneak some celery and onions into a casserole if I've got them finely chopped. Okay. So just going to get that in there with my butter. You could certainly lighten it up and use a little less butter or use olive oil instead of the butter. This is kind of be one of those kind of comfort food casseroles though. So I'm using the butter. I'm just going to let that hang out a little bit. Season it with a little bit of, I love to use garlic salt. It's a seasoning that I grew up with back in the day. We didn't have access to a lot of fresh herbs and garlic, so my mom and grandmother always went for the garlic salt, and to this day I'm a big fan of it. And some black pepper. Okay, it's a chicken and noodle casserole, so we need some noodles. And again, I'm going to keep this very simple and just do one bag of egg noodles. Now, when you're doing a casserole, I think it's so important if a casserole has rice, pasta, or potatoes in it that you undercook them just a little bit because, again, they're going to cook again in the oven. And nobody wants a seasoning my pasta with a little bit of salt, a real mushy noodle, you know, in their casserole. So that is no fun at all. So basically, you want to just cook the pasta, a little undercook the pasta, I think is really important. Okay. All right. Now, to the chicken. I talked about doing a lot of recipes that, you know, if you can, on one day. Like Sunday is my big cooking day. Sunday's a day where I'll kind of look at the ads, see what's on sale, or see, you know, what time of year it is, or see what I'm feeling, or see maybe what I've got in the freezer that needs using. Let's say we're going to go with chicken this week. So that's going to be kind of our theme of the week. I'll roast up a whole bunch of chicken breasts all at once. And then basically you can, you know, use those chicken breasts in a whole bunch of different recipes, like this chicken noodle casserole. So in both of my cookbooks, I talk about, and I've talked about it on the show before, my secret way to cook chicken breasts. And the way I do it is I basically do it in foil. Like this. I drizzle a little bit of olive oil or butter over the top, and then I basically season it with a little bit of garlic salt or pepper, bake it in this foil for about 45 minutes to an hour. And this recipe, we just got 2 to 3 chicken breasts. These are big. The recipe calls for 3 to 4, but these happen to be very ginormous chicken breasts. But when I do this at home, I like to roast about, you know, a dozen or more at one time, and then turn all that, you know, make-ahead chicken that we did one time into homemade chicken noodle soup, homemade this chicken noodle casserole, you know, chicken pot pie, chicken salad, dozens of different recipes that you can cook once and cook the chicken once and get a bunch of different meals out of it. That is really the way I roll these days. Okay. My veggies are sauteing. I don't want to overcook my noodles, so I'm really keeping a close eye on that. And I'm just going to now, there's a couple ways that you can do the chicken. I like to work with it when it's warm, and if you've got nice clean hands, I like to just shred it up with my fingers. When it's warm, I think it's so much easier to work with, and then you can feel with your fingers any bits of that chicken that you may not want in your casserole. All righty. Yeah, there's sometimes parts of that chicken that you just don't want in there, so that's why I love to just do it by hand, and it just makes it easier. Okay. These are huge chicken breasts, so I think this is going to be plenty. Okay. All right. So let's put to work on putting this casserole together. Okay. So we're going to use 2 cans of cream of chicken soup. Get my onions and my celery out of the pan there, or off the heat, I should say. And I just want to get every little last bit of the soup out of there. Okay. Now, we've got some milk. We love our Lamers milk. And you'll notice that I really like to keep my casseroles nice and creamy. So there's quite a bit of liquid in my casseroles, which I think is a very good thing. So creamy is better, and I just really don't like a dried out casserole. So that's why you're going to notice quite a bit of liquid in my casseroles. Now, one of my secrets to making canned soups, I love the cream soups, especially when it makes, when it comes to making casseroles, because they really just make a nice creamy sauce, and they make my life easier. But I want to make those casseroles taste like, they've been kicked up a little bit. So I'm adding a little bit of dry white wine. And in this recipe, you can use your choice of either sour cream or some mayonnaise, just to make the sauce nice and creamy. So about a cup of sour cream or mayo. And again, it's just going to taste really nice and creamy, and not like the canned soup. All right, we're ready to rock and roll and put this casserole together. So my noodles are done. And we've got quite a bit of pasta, so my recipes, you're going to notice, have a lot of liquid. I'm just putting a little more wine in there. And that's because when that pasta cooks, it really tends to absorb a lot of the sauce. So nobody likes a casserole that's as dry as an Arizona desert. That's what I always say. Okay. So to put this baby together, we're going to take the onions and the celery. All that great sauce, the cream of chicken soup, mayo or sour cream, milk, a little bit of dry white wine like a Chardonnay or a Pinot Grigio, just a little bit. You can leave the wine out if you want to. I just think it adds some nice flavor. You could substitute chicken stock or a little extra milk. In goes our noodles that we've undercooked a little bit. Our chicken. This is optional, but I really like to add a little color to this. So these are just pimentos, 1 jar that I've drained very well. So I grease up my casserole dish, pour this in, do a little buttered breadcrumb topping on the top. This casserole freezes wonderfully, but I wouldn't put the topping on the top until the very end. And you pull it out of the oven, and it is creamy and delicious. The breadcrumbs get nice and golden, and this casserole is always a hit. I love to serve this with a great big salad, a crusty loaf of bread, and a nice dessert, and it is always a winner. And by the way, we'll put my chicken noodle casserole recipe on the website.